The sketches I made yesterday were sitting in the corner of my desk, untouched and waiting for my scrutiny. It's become a habit now. After a session, I'd look at my sketches with a sort of disapproving gaze. The lines were off, the drawings were flat, the faces were poorly designed. Thoughts that circled like vultures, waiting to devour the last minutes of my session with a scoff. At the scribbles I claimed to be gesture drawings, at the blank pages I defended were for preserving graphite, and certainly not because I wanted to hide the bad drawings. Improving has been my goal. It always has been, to draw like the artist I looked up to and bring these imaginary worlds from my mind to life on the page. But my sketches did not hold that promise. It was difficult to look for the good and the bad parts of my art practice. All I found were numerous reasons to say I was failing as a student of art. Still, I clung to a hope that said I was on the right track. Somewhere along the way, I'd heard that hating your art is good, that it's a sign of growth, and that it's fuel for improvement. But that is not what I found in the artist I looked up to. I didn't find that mindset in the artists I admired. I didn't find that in the sketchbooks they flipped through, or in the art they made, or the sketches they called doodles. Professional artists not only possess sharpened skills, they have the clarity that comes from experience. They know the difference between critiquing your art and bullying the efforts you put out. Professional artists understand how to separate themselves from their work. They know how to be objective, when to wear the hat of the student from the hat of the teacher. And most importantly, they recognize that hating your art is not the same as critique, nor is it a shortcut to improvement. In my last video, I said you must remain objective when doing academic drawing practice, and I stand by that. If you're drawing for fun, dial down the criticism a bit. But if you're drawing to improve, don't hide behind the "it's just my style" excuse. Trust me on that, I've been there. You have to know which hat to wear, the student or the teacher or the artist that's just experimenting. Distinguishing what hat you're wearing during an art session is important if you truly want to have clarity with your art practice. Right now, we might not be the sharpest skill-wise, but adopting a professional's mindset even as a beginner might be the best catalyst for your growth. Saying you should remain objective is one thing, to apply it to your workflow is another. It happens the moment you lift the pencil from the page, waiting for something to look for, the good and the bad. But when you're starting out, it looks like there's nothing good about what you're drawing. It's mostly just a nightmare of weak fundamentals. But at this point, I think we need to define what a critique even is. On the surface, a critique is an analysis of a drawing. It's meant to be objective. But the question is, how do we remain objective? It doesn't begin with excessively giving ourselves blind praise, and it certainly doesn't mean we continue to bully our work. To put it simply, we remain neutral. Critiquing our work isn't about spotting what's broken, it's about seeing what works and what could be sharpened. That's what the Focus Art Practice worksheet does. Step 3 helps you isolate weak points so you can assess them objectively. I'm also building a new worksheet to help you solidify your daily drawing routine. As always, the studio is open if you're interested. I have my Ko-fi link in the description. I designed these tools to help you bridge the gap between having a scatterbrained practice and a focused one, because I want you to remember that every drawing has room for growth and moments of success. Simply put, if you did well, you did well. If it can be improved, it can be improved. There's always a next page. So how do we remain objective? Have a reference. This can be as literal as pulling up a photo of an artwork that has that weak point you're trying to improve as a reference as you draw. But it can also extend to the process of artwork. Maybe you're practicing the workflow of an artist you like and you're trying to cater it to your tendencies as an artist. Think of your reference as a blueprint for the fundamentals you're studying. For example, if you're practicing gesture, use a work like Michael Hampton's as your reference. By comparing your drawings to his, you have a clear standard for what to aim for and what to correct. Set your intentions before you draw. Are you practicing or are you having a laid-back art session? If you're practicing, what are you practicing? Is it gesture, perspective, or composition? Identifying it clearly narrows down your focus, making your practice session a lot more intentional. One misconception I've followed for a very long time in my art journey was that a critique should only happen after a drawing session. But this doesn't always have to be the case. At every stage of your drawing session, you should take a short break, come back, and assess your work before picking up the pencil again. I usually set a 45-minute timer and I have to take a 10-minute break after. This keeps my mind sharp and refreshes my eyes. Integrating this into your practice allows you to keep your performance sharp and helps you reflect on why you sat down to practice in the first place. By glancing at your list of goals from the beginning of your art session. For example, I might have a session of drawing something simple, let's say box exercises. I know, so exciting. My reference is from a trusted source. I'm using How to Draw by Scott Robertson. I list these down as I go. I make observations and list down what Scott, my reference artist, does well. He sets the horizon lines, the vanishing points. His lines are clean and precise. His lines follow the vanishing points. And then I do my drawings, 45-minute session, 10 minutes break. After my break, I take a moment to observe what I did well, what Scott or your reference artist did that you or I did too, and what I could work on. I go back and I assess the drawings I have recently produced. My lines may have been off from the vanishing point. My lines may have been scratchy. Then I pick up the pencil again. See what we did there? We aren't just drawing, we're also practicing our ability to set goals and hunting for specific improvements. We're applying our observations and thus, we are able to objectively critique our work without harming that little beginner in us. Doing a lot of lists and observations of the reference artist or the artwork that you're studying from is essentially the same strategy that I've been using all these years to keep track of what I'm doing in my art sessions. I note down what I observed from my drawings and then I apply that to the next session. So essentially, you're just adjusting as you go. The point is, you have to be as objectively constructive as possible. Do not just say the drawing looks ugly. That is not a critique, that is an insult, okay? Please don't do that to yourself. If you're doing a longer form drawing and you have more drawing sessions to complete it, for example, you're rendering something complicated, it's important to keep referring to that list of observations we talked about from the beginning of your art session. Today, you might be focusing on getting the lay-ins for your drawing down. Tomorrow, you might be getting into the secondary forms of your drawings. That list of what to look out for as you draw becomes an indispensable tool if you're looking to improve. This simple method of listing down your own observations practices two major things. One, you're practicing your ability to be a teacher to yourself. And second of all, you're practicing your ability to observe carefully. You're not just copying the drawing that you're referring to. You're sitting there and you're asking yourself questions on, okay, what did this artist do that I may or may not have done? And how can I apply that to my next session? With that being said, I know that asking for feedback can be daunting. Many of us, including me, prefer to work in private. My goal is to help you bridge the gap between self-critique and the objective perspective of an outsider. I'm currently designing a critique service to respect our introverted natures. You don't have to hop on a call with me. You send me your work and I'll provide a detailed PDF breakdown of what's working, what needs attention, and exactly how we're going to remedy it. I'm still refining the process, but if you'd like to help me sharpen this resource for self-taught artists like us, I have a survey link in the description box if you're interested. A critique isn't a final judgment, it's a redirection. It isn't an insult, nor is it a collection of your failures, and that is always a fortunate position to be in. Your work right now and always will have room to improve.